Hi everyone, this is Alan Rosinski of Metro Manhattan Office Space. Frequently when I get a call from a potential client, they ask me where am I getting my listings. And there's, behind that question, I think there's a concern as to whether they're going to be able to view everything on the market if they work through me. And try to understand that there's almost a multiple listing service, the equivalent of that for the commercial real estate industry. And that we all brokers, we all have access to the same listings. That any reputable landlord who wants to seriously lease their space is going to list the property on websites such as Loopnet, which is more consumer-oriented, CoStar, which is for brokers, and the CoStar Group owns both those properties. So any broker that specializes in commercial real estate is going to have a CoStar subscription. So we all have access to exactly the same database. And I mean, this is really important for prospective tenants, for businesses to understand, because what it means is since brokers don't really have their own proprietary listings and they share them, that if you call up 5 different brokers, you're not going to be shown 5 different sets of space. You just really need to call one broker that you feel comfortable with. So call up a commercial broker. If they're reputable, they do their research. You're going to be seeing everything. Don't worry about that. I think some of you, and I see this among some inquiries that I receive, now that there's more information out there regarding listings, and there's you have Craigslist, you have certain websites, there's more of a feeling that brokers add less value because the consumer or the business can now find their own space. And I don't think that's true. And I think if it was true, what happened to the travel agents who would book airline tickets, who have completely disappeared over the years, that would have happened to the commercial real estate brokerage industry. But the commercial real estate brokerage industry is thriving because brokers add a fair amount of value. You know, what's happened over the years is this sort of resource wasn't available 25 years ago. Maybe 25, 30 years ago, listings would vary from brokerage firm to brokerage firm. It's not the case now. And it kind of brings up another kind of question which would be natural to ask. What's the value of the broker if these listings, to at least some extent, are publicly available? I mean, what would stop a business from subscribing to Loopnet, which is really for consumers, or maybe even CoStar? And I'll give you an analogy. It's a little bit like trying to be an attorney if you have access to all the statutes. Many years ago, law firms would invest in a law library, and they'd have access to all the laws and statutes for their own state, for the federal government, for different municipalities and states. You know, now this information is accessible online to anybody who wants to take the time to read different legislation, laws, case history, but that doesn't make you an attorney. And the accessibility of this information has not eliminated attorneys. And it's the same thing with real estate. Commercial real estate is rather complex. Being a broker, you're providing a very complex business service. It's not just, well, here's a space which is available. Now, also in a way, using that analogy, if you had access to the statutes and laws, it doesn't give you the ability to interpret that information. You have to go to law school, you have to pass the bar exam, you need some experience to be a good attorney and to interpret case law and be able to really serve your client and advise them. And commercial real estate is very, very similar to that. You have to get to know the landlords. You have to get to know the buildings. You have to start to understand about laws factor, have some knowledge of architecture. You have to have experience negotiating with the various landlords so you understand which landlord will do what for what type of tenant, because the requirements tend to be so particular from the use. I'll give you an example. I'm working with a company right now that provides seminars, training seminars, and they have about 80 people visiting their space at 8 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 4 p.m. And I'm able to do that research relatively quickly because I know which landlords are easy regarding use. But for for somebody who wasn't accustomed to the market and didn't know the landlords in New York City, even having access to the most detailed database would only go so far in assisting. But the sort of things you don't know, even if you had access to the listings, is that listing in fact available? Because very frequently, when a space is on the market, you could have multiple offers, or maybe even a lease is at. You don't want to start negotiating on an encumbered space. Also, another example, some landlords are relatively tough on the security deposit, and they demand a lot of security deposit. Let's say you have a new business and you're starting up. You don't want to go to a landlord like that because they're going to want 6 months to a year of security deposit, and you want to invest your capital in your business. You don't want your landlord holding your liquid assets in the form of security. Other things, you don't know. You can see an asking rent. You don't know how negotiable it is. And I mean, these landlords have a history. If you've done deals with a landlord, you can have a sense of where they can negotiate. Are they going to be more flexible in terms of providing a build-out? Are they going to be willing to reduce rent? Are they going to be able to give you some free rent? Again, you don't know that without experience. Also, you go online. What these listings may not tell you is the amenities in the building. What hours is the lobby attended? Is there a key card system? Is there building personnel there at all times? Or the quarters, air conditioning? That sort of knowledge you get through experience, and that's something which a broker can add value, assuming they pounded the pavement and they know the inventory. But to answer the original question, basically brokers have access to the CoStar Group's property database, which is very, very thorough, and it's a very good starting point, but it's no more than a starting point for commercial brokers, because once they start researching your requirement, there's a lot involved to making a good selection and helping you acquire a space. Hope this information addresses any concern you may have as a business. If you have any questions, please feel free to tweet them to me. My Twitter handle is @Metro Manhattan, and thank you for viewing this video, and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until the next time, have a nice afternoon. Bye now.